Thank you for joining me for Life Experiences with Dr. Amanda. Today I want to talk about obedience is better than sacrifice. And where that scripture comes is there is a detailed story about Samuel and Saul. And Saul was told by God to utterly kill the Amalekites, this group of people. And so when Samuel came to see Saul, Saul had killed them, but he took of the spoil, which is of the riches, the cattle, and things like that. And his excuse to Samuel was the reason why I took the cattle is because the people wanted to offer a sacrifice to you. And so Samuel's response to Saul was obedience is better than sacrifice. So that's what I want to focus on today. So I say, Lord, what makes obedience better than sacrifice? Because when we think about sacrifice, that's one of those things where I'm giving up something. Lord, I'm giving of myself to you. I'm giving it up to you. So, when I say that I'm giving it up, that means that in some way it's going to hinder or hurt me, or it's something that I'm choosing to give. So that ought to be a good thing, right? But when we think about obedience, like I talked about in the last video, obedience is completely surrendering everything. With a sacrifice, we actually know what we're giving up. But with obedience, it's simply, we don't know consequences. We don't know blessings. We simply know that it's obedience, and we do it because our heart is sold out to God. So that within itself makes so much sense to me. Obedience is better than sacrifice. And when you think about it, anything that we actually say that we are sacrificing, we wouldn't actually even have the ability to sacrifice it without God providing the means. So really, our sacrifices aren't really sacrifices, because we're only able to do them because God has provided us with that need or provided us with that something. And I'll give you a situation that was very hard for me a few years ago when we talk about obedience is better than sacrifice. I had an opportunity a few years back to take this job with a 20,000 plus a year increase. And so the Lord told me no. And I couldn't understand why, I couldn't understand why. And I even would say to myself, oh man, I can pay so many more tithes, and I can pay so much more in offerings, and I can do this for the church. We always try to make it biblical to justify ourselves. And you know what? I ended up taking that job. And yes, I was able to pay more tithes and give more offering. And even give more in sacrificing, different things. But I was in disobedience to the Lord. That wasn't what he wanted for me. So when it's not where God gets the glory and it's disobedience, what does the sacrifice matter? Because we're not in God's will and we're out of his plan. And so that was a hard lesson for me, and God had to chastise me through it. But you know what? I'm so glad that he thought enough of me to allow me to go through it and to teach me more about who he was and his great love for me. He wasn't trying to withhold anything from me, but my life has a specific purpose that he wants it to carry out. And I was out of that purpose when I was choosing to go my own way and do my own plan, even though I was going to sacrifice some good things. Sacrifices can be good. They can have good consequences. But if we're not in obedience to God and he doesn't get the glory, it doesn't mean very much. And so when we have a pure heart and a pure mind, giving no thought to what we will get out of the situation, or no thought to who is watching, we are walking in obedience to God. But if we're just doing things to say, I'm going to do this because this is a great something to do, and there's going to be good that comes out of it, I'm going to sacrifice this and do this, then once again, if God's not getting the glory, it does nothing for our walk with him. And another thing, life is just too short for us not to be purposeful in everything that we do, to walk in complete obedience to God. So one of the things the Lord has been leading me to do is just to slow down, to focus and to listen, not just react, not just do what seems like it's the right thing to do, but to really focus and listen to him. And I have my regular prayer time in the morning. And one of the things the Lord has been leading me to do is even on my lunch breaks. When I get in the car, one of the first things I want to do is jump on the phone and call my husband. And there's nothing that's bad about that. But the Lord has just gotten me where he wants me to just focus so I can listen. I've been in that building with people or doing work, and my focus has been on that. Not that it's not has been sinful, but just get in the car and listen and focus, be obedient. And so here's what would be the flip side. If I didn't do my morning worship and I said, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice and do my lunch break and seek the Lord. That's what we're talking about, the difference between obedience and sacrifice. He's told me when I rise to seek his face. So I can't put that aside, because that would be putting aside the obedience he's told me to walk in, and then say that I'm making a sacrifice by doing it at another time during lunchtime. So we just have to get ourselves together and just focus and purposely do what God has for us to do. We have to just really know that this life is his life. I'm in this body. I'm serving him. But everything that I do, it's his life. So the next time I'm going to talk about self-examination. I think this falls right in line with examining ourselves. So please subscribe to the channel, share with someone, and I pray that you have a wonderful week.